We have Maxim 10, care in the design of planned placement of deceptive materials. Great care must be exercised in the design of schemes to leak national plans. Apparent windfalls are subject to close scrutiny and often disbelieved. Genuine leaks often occur under circumstances thought improbable. Two incidents can serve to illustrate this principle. Early in World War II, a German aircraft holding for Cologne became lost and made a forced landing near Malines in Belgium. The three passengers, two Wehrmacht officers and a Luftwaffe major, were soon arrested by Belgian authorities. Taken to the police station and left alone briefly, they made an attempt to burn some documents they were carrying, top secret documents containing the attack plans for Holland and Belgium. The documents failed to burn and fell into Belgian hands, according to Schellenberg. The Western powers were, of course, shocked and alarmed when at first they saw the plans for the attack. However, they finally decided that the documents had been placed in their hands by the Germans purposely in order to mislead them. They probably could not imagine that we had been guilty of such a crass blunder. A second example occurred in the North African campaigns. Alam el Halfa, a ridge roughly 15 miles behind the Alamein line, was a natural stronghold, an excellent defensive position for the British at that stage in the war. It could, however, be outflanked by the advancing Germans who might be able to press on to Alexandria. The British maps of the area were excellent, being based upon captured Italian maps corrected by aerial photographs. One type of British map was thought particularly valuable by both armies, the so-called going map. This map showed color-coded regions denoting how difficult the terrain was and what speeds could be maintained by various vehicles. The British decided to print the false going map, showing that an outflanking movement would present rough going, whereas the route direct to the Alam el Halfa region was easily passable. The map was secretly printed and placed in an armored car to be captured by the Germans in a latter-day version of the mm, Meinerzagen Haversack ruse. The plan worked, and the Germans came directly to Alam el Halfa over rough going incidentally. Some 2 months later, General von Thoma, then commander of the Africa Corps, was taken prisoner and talked freely to the British, Sir David Hunt recalled. When he mentioned in particular the going maps, which were so greatly sought as prizes, one of them, he said, had been of great use before the Battle of Alam el Halfa, because they had intended to make a wide outflanking movement, but had fortunately been saved from this by the opportune capture of a map in an abandoned armored car, which showed they would have run into bad going. The plan was accordingly changed before the attack. Like Lady Bracknell, I thought it wrong to undeceive him. The foregoing two examples show both kinds of misclassification error. In the Belgian case, a real windfall was dismissed as false. In North Africa, a false map was accepted as real. Ironically, contrary to what might be expected, false positives and false negatives appear to be more the rule than the exception. Whaley, for example, in analysis of the original cases in the database involving receipt by the victim of detailed documents about the attacker's plans, observed that in 4 out of 5 cases, true leaks were dismissed as plans, whereas in 5 out of 5 cases, false plans were accepted as real. A common feature of the successful deception efforts is that they were designed to co-opt skepticism by requiring some participation by the victims, either a physical effort in obtaining the evidence or analytic effort in interpreting it. Dave Brown, in writing the story of the Normandy deceptions, captured this idea well when he wrote, as Bevan pointed out, masses of misinformation could not simply be handed over to the Germans. It would have been leaked in bits and pieces in indirect and subtle ways from places far and where the main battle would be fought. No one knew better than Bevan that intelligence easily obtained was intelligence readily disbelieved. It was the cardinal rule of deception. The Germans would have to work for the truth, and once they had pieced it together after much labor and cost, a convincing whole would emerge. Sir John Masterman, who was a principal participant in the XX committee charged with the responsibility of running double agents during World War II, makes the identical point. You cannot baldly announce to the enemy that such an operation is in preparation or that such a division is being trained to invade North Africa or Norway. What you have to do, granted that you control the major part of the German intelligence service, is to send over a great deal of factual information, introducing into it those facts from which the German intelligence staff will deduce your deception intentions. Moreover, you cannot just volunteer information. The agent's first duty is to answer questions passed by the Germans, and therefore you must, by your answers, guide subsequent questions in the direction you desire. The danger to the foregoing advice is that it is possible to be too subtle with consequent risk of failure. Masterman, for example, recounts a frustrating deception failure. On one occasion, an agent was deliberately run in order to show that the Germans that he was under control, the object being to give them a false idea of our methods of running such an agent and thus to convince them that the other agents were genuine. The theory was sound and the gaffes committed were crass and blatant, but the object was not achieved for the simple reason that the Germans continued to think of the agent as being genuine and reliable. There is thus a delicate balance to be struck between obviousness and subtlety, with the attendant twin risks that the message will be either misunderstood or dismissed as a plant. To the aficionados, this is the essence of the craft.